Your Royal Highness Princess Haya, on behalf of myself, Louise Nichol, and the readers of Harper's Bazaar Arabia, thank you so much for sparing your time to be with us today.
Thank you.
We're very grateful.
Thank you very much, Louise.
Now, I know that you have many philanthropic and cultural interests, and today we're focusing on healthcare. Could you tell us what prompted your own personal interest in the healthcare sector?
My interest in the healthcare sector started out actually, sadly, with my mother passing away when I was 3 years old, and she was visiting a hospital in Jordan. And as a result, just hearing about, and during my younger life, hearing about the fact that she died visiting a hospital and that she was trying to serve people and wanting to grow up and be like her, I often went and visited the hospital she died at in Tafile, and basically got interested more in the administration side of hospitals, because that's possibly the only part that I understood. But I used to go, and it was a very small community in Jordan, the healthcare community, and there was a lot of military hospitals, and I'd always go and sit with the doctors, and they'd chat to me about kind of what their day was like, and the nurses would explain to me, and I think they realised that it was helping me kind of psychologically to feel that I was doing something, and they nurtured that, and as a result I've always felt very, very much at home, and it was always something that I kind of had embedded in me, that I wanted to grow up and do what my mum was trying to do. So that's where it started. But I think as well with the lifestyle around horses, specifically animals, I mean, you learn to care and you learn to try and help treat them. As an Olympic athlete, definitely your horse's health was one of the most important factors, because having a healthy partner and staying healthy yourself and was about what made it a top performance. So I got into that kind of wellness side as well, and kind of understood that the healthy lifestyle requirements as a result of that. So it all kind of came together. I've been very lucky here in the UAE that when I started, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed said that he was interested in me looking at the healthcare sector, because it was something that was to a small extent in my background or in my field of interest. That the healthcare sector here really welcomed me, and I mean, I think you learn every day of your life, but I certainly was the least expert person in the medical field, but they've always carried me along and been really kind, and I've never been a person afraid of asking silly questions, and they've always taken the time to answer them, and sometimes that's the best way to learn. So every day's a learning experience, and proud to be part of the sector. Completely honest and frank, I think that it's complemented the existing healthcare system at this point in time. It's very nascent. It was opened on November 1st last year, so it would be unfair to say that it's made an enormous impact, and I think that all the team there, as hard as they're working, know that they've got an enormous amount to achieve, and they're looking forward to it. I think that slowly the patient load is ramping up. Slowly we're getting our full staff on board. It's made it. I mean, blissfully, it's made a huge difference to some lives. We've had some open heart surgeries. We've had some really amazing cases, and that's the thing that I actually never thought was part of opening a hospital, that I was focused for 8 years on, you know, Sheikh Mohammed's vision, what it should look like, what the room should look like, what the decoration should be like, and it's in many ways like being pregnant. You're going on this journey for 10 months, and the thing that you're not really expecting to know how it will be is the child, and having that hospital open its doors and realizing that the reality of a hospital is every child who comes in and goes out well is a small victory. And that's probably been the biggest revelation to me. I kind of thought that it was, once the building was up and it was all functioning, that I would be happy and that was my job. But there are now, I mean, there are new stories, like new worries, and you know, a child comes in and they've got a special case, and can we treat them? Do they need to travel? Do we need to look for, you know, specialised help? Do we need to fly a doctor in? I mean, it's interesting, and it's a very beautiful journey. I've had a kind of a newfound admiration for people who work in paediatric care as well. The nurses and the doctors are nearly a different breed of people from other medics, because they're dealing with, in a way, children, and they have this additional layer of intuition, because obviously really little people can't communicate the way that adults do, and just their bedside manner and the patience that they have, and the endurance that often as a mother you understand. Is amazing, and also the fact that they see a lot of parents, and I've seen it too and completely understand it. When your child is sick, the desperation you have to just want to take the pain away and want to make it better and want to do that very, very quickly, and the kind of that additional level of understanding and nearly psychological kind of healing power that the doctors and the nurses have to deal with the whole unit is amazing. But children's hospitals are incredible places. We're very lucky as well to have a partnership with Older Hay and with Moorfields, and definitely we're looking forward to, you know, to others in the future. But to be able to work with other institutions that are best of breed is fantastic.
Was there anything specific that you really...
Stop you for 2 seconds. Sorry, we just need to redo that. Okay. It doesn't want to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Was there anything specific that you really wanted to bring to the hospital, in terms of, I don't know, maybe how it looks or how the rooms feel, or anything that you felt was really important for the patient experience?
I think my experience with my father, I spent a lot of time with my father in hospital, probably the last 8 months of his life when he was fighting cancer. And really the feeling that some hospitals have, where you feel like it's a place that you are sick in, is difficult. I mean, there were some days when I'd kind of go home and think, wow, it's a hard place to get well here, because you just feel that everyone around you, this is a hospital. And I think that having an airy, open space and feeling that children could feel at home, that it wasn't very stifling, was one part of it, and that it was a place where they felt they could get well. The other part, of course, was the fact that, I mean, I discovered the kind of the vacuum for it, because when my daughter Jalila first kind of got her, she didn't get sick. Literally her nose was running, and I panicked because it was my first child, and said to Sheikh Mohammed, "Where's the children's hospital?" And then realised that there wasn't one. And then we started talking, and thank God it was only a runny nose. But it did make me start to think. I had the chance to travel to so many top hospitals in the world that I know that the most important thing isn't airy rooms and nice decoration. It really is the quality of medical care that you get there, and the quality of the doctors and the nurses and what they can provide, and that in the first instance is what gets kids out the door faster than anything else. And that standard of healthcare and finding the right professionals that fit in with the whole healthcare system here was really important. But the hospital was designed actually by Sheikh Mohammed and by my daughter Jalila, and it was really it was something that happened with her building blocks, and they literally built it from there on. Her favourite thing when she was small was a ladybird, so there's a lot of ladybird elements in it, and of course Sheikh Mohammed had, as he always does, the cutting edge vision to make it one of the first green hospitals in the world. So it has really a very, very environmentally friendly. The whole facade is interactive. It's got its own kind of a cooling system. It works on energy conservation, so it really is one of the first green hospitals in the world, and all of that put together made it quite a personal journey. But there was, of course, first and foremost, a fantastic team of medical professionals that did feasibility studies and did the most important part of the job, which is the medical planning.
Wonderful. Now, under the UAE's Vision 2021, your husband, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, has set out various healthcare targets. Mm-hmm. What needs to be achieved over the next 4 years, and what are the challenges of getting there?
Sheikh Mohammed has always believed that one of the most important benchmarks to calling any society developed is the investment that a government makes in both education and healthcare. So it is one of the most important targets for us to reach in 2021. It's about obviously creating a holistic healthcare system, one that works together, where all the different sides, that you don't have a kind of a standalone children's hospital, but it works in conjunction with the different other partners in the system, in the ministry, in the Department of Health. But also we've got real targets for people, something that the general wellness and the to be able to call our society a healthy society. Looking at child obesity, looking at very serious illnesses like diabetes, which are very prevalent in our region, especially among children, and looking at creating a healthy environment for young people here. I think that's one of his main aims.
Yeah, I mean, I think as women and mothers of young children, why do you think it's such an issue in this region, and what advice do you have for parents who might be struggling with their own children's weight and fitness?
I think it's a very big issue in this region because of the availability of good food, which is a blessing in many ways. For, I think, the national population, then one of the biggest challenges is the rapid change in lifestyle. And I think that over the last 40 years, there's been a huge change in lifestyle from one that was generally outdoors, and it was really one that was involved a lot of walking, a lot of fitness, very little variety or choice in food, and what food was available was healthy. Now we've got the introduction of fast foods, a lot of them, a huge range of restaurants. The one thing we push for is very, very high service levels, and having all of that available, a menu that's so easily accessible for young children is one part of it. But I do think that the introduction, or the speed at which modern communications is also progressing is another factor for young people. The fact that they can spend more time on their iPhones than they. I mean, it used to be sitting on the sofa watching TV, but it's nearly worse when now it's your iPad or your iPhone than being outdoors. And I think that there needs to be a huge push to get kids back outdoors, really, and interested and in love with sports, because I think genetically it's just common sense that human beings were supposed to move at least 11 hours a day, and not sit and just move their fingers. So
how do you get your own kids moving, and how do you deal with the dreaded screen time issue?
We have I have a 1 hour a day on your iPhone or your iPad rule in the house. Luckily, actually, from when they were literally both 5 days old, and I was out of hospital, then I used to take them out in the pram at least twice a day for about 2 hours. So literally, from as long as they can remember, it was have your breakfast, go out, come back in for lunch, and then go out again. And it was building up that kind of time. If it was basically messing around, creating games with leaves and things that you find in nature, stones, looking for shells on the beach, things that are more that way than indoor activities. That helped a lot. So they weren't that naturally inclined, but of course when you introduce school, and most kids have access to digital media, and they talk about having their own iPhones and they talk about having their own iPad, things get harder. But we've just said that there's no iPad or iPhone at meal times, and that's when we talk as a family, and there's only an hour a day, and it's not before bedtime, and it cuts down the time that they can, in addition to the fact that they have. It's really good to get them passionate about sports. I mean, because they enjoy it so much, but because it gives them a reason to be really involved in one thing, and it gives them a confidence because they can talk about it to their friends. And I find that just the trick is finding which sport and what suits them best, and making sure that it's something that they enjoy rather than you enjoy. But once you've found that one passion, then I think it pays off.
Have they found it?
Jalila definitely has a love for horses, but also for art.
Okay.
And I try not to control it all, but I'm really pleased that she loves her time on horses. Zayed also, but Zayed loves the desert. He loves driving, off-road driving, tracking, camping, anything like that. So I'm not sure which way he'll go, but it's definitely anywhere where that's outside.
And that comes from the parents, I think, as well. They have a sporty family.
We like the outdoors.
Fantastic. Now, the healthcare industry can be a wonderful provider of fulfilling careers for women especially, which I believe the Mohammed bin Rashid University of Medicine and Health Sciences, as well as the Al Jalila Foundation for Medical Education and Research, play an important role. Can you tell us about any women who you've met that might be pursuing careers in healthcare, and how their stories have touched you?
Well, I've had the pleasure and the honour of meeting a great many women who are starting and in careers in healthcare. I think they're one of the things that I see every day. I mean, there's some jobs where I feel sometimes that I spend hours behind the computer and go away in the evening and think, okay, well, I think I achieved quite a lot today. And then you meet someone who's a nurse and realise that they've put in a long shift, and they've probably comforted a few people who were extraordinarily sad. They might have helped a family that are that are suffering from a loss. they might have helped save a life, and then you go and think, well, now maybe I didn't achieve anything at all today. That job is a real job. It's a basic job, but it must be one of the most fulfilling jobs that are out there. I think nurses are extraordinary, and the amount of excellent, incredible female doctors that we have now around the world is also something to be extraordinarily proud of. There are some women who are just a cut above, and it's fascinating to watch.
And are you trying to attract more women into the medical profession in this region, and are there challenges involved in that?
I wouldn't say that I'm trying to do that. I think that, it's so hard to even figure out what you want to do with your own life sometimes, that I would be the last person to try and push anyone else into one field or another. But to offer my support in any way that I can to those that are there, to understand that, while we've spoken just now about those individuals in a very rosy sense, that the hardship, the long hours, the difficult situations. A lot of times there are nurses that face quite violent situations. I'm not talking about in pediatric care, but in normal medicine, and that it's a really tough job. So just offering my support, as well as showing my appreciation, is something that I think I'm maybe qualified to do. But I wouldn't want to push any young people in one direction or another. But certainly, if they choose to go in that direction, I'd be the first to applaud.
Of course. And do you know, are there many Emirati or Arab women studying at the Mohammed bin Rashid University of Medicine and Health Sciences?
The numbers are going up, and we're very, very proud of that. We've got a number of very, very, very promising young women. Fantastic. In the programme.
And what are you proud of in terms of breakthroughs or progress that has been enabled by the Al Jalila Foundation for Medical Education and Research?
I think the Al Jalila Foundation is really spread over a large section of research. It's been very, very successful, far faster than I would have imagined. It's being very supportive to. We hope it will be very supportive to the Jalila Hospital in the future, and we were very much looking at having a situation where, like an institution like Great Ormond Street or Melbourne Children's Hospital, that has a foundation that can back it up, so that half of the work is supported by government funding, and the other half is really underpinned by private sector donations. To have education work hand in hand with the medical programs is something that ultimately creates a habitat where medicine improves in the country. Is something that's important, and the Jalila Foundation is facilitating that. So I'm really proud of what they've done. It's been good so far.
Good. And you are the chairperson of the UAE Nursing and Midwifery Council. Mm-hmm. What is the overall picture of maternal health in the Arab world, and how does the UAE compare within that?
I think the picture in the UAE of maternal health rates highly in the Arab world. But I think in the Arab world in general, and I could probably say for the world in general, that women are probably the last people who actually admit to having a bad day, to not feeling quite well. There's kind of this attitude that you have to push on, and you just have to keep going, and they're generally the ones that we see last in a hospital looking for help. So I do think that there's more that can be done, and definitely in women, areas such as breast cancer and areas like that is is something that we have to work on in the Arab world, because there's this stigma that you feel you can't come forward and admit that maybe there's something you need to treat. But maternal health is good. We have a very good hospital in Latifa Hospital. We've got a number of private sector hospitals that are just one or two that are just opening, and a couple that are also very good. And one of the things that helps is that they see a lot of traffic. There's a very high birth rate in the Arab world, and that gives doctors a lot of good experience.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but I can see now.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Are there any challenges? You mentioned breast cancer. Any other areas where women really need extra support? Or
I think it is those areas, most especially breast cancer, where they feel that they have to admit that, or there's something a little not quite right, and that they're embarrassed to come forward, and that is one of the areas. We've got a few amazing champions, like Her Highness Sheikh Lubna Al-Qasimi has been, one of the people who's worked very hard in the area of breast cancer, but also in the area of women's health in general. Her Highness Sheikh Fatma Bint Mubarak is one of the main champions who not only has invested in women's health and making sure that issues like maternity leave are addressed properly and things like that, but also has a huge network of knowing people and being able to speak to them. And I think it's that personal touch that she has that really helps people take care of themselves, especially women.
Maternity is an issue that's really close to my heart, having had 3 children and returned to work after each of them, and having them in Dubai. And I know it's a challenge for many women in the UAE and in the region. Is there anything about maternity leave policies or attitudes that you would like to see modernised?
I think Sheikh Fatma has made a number of recent announcements, and is about to make some that will make women's lives much easier here.
So I can have some more children.
I'm sure you can have many more children and quite a lot of time off.
Wonderful. And just finally, you have got 2 wonderful children, Jalila, who's 9, and Zayed, who is 5. How are they involved in the healthcare cause, and how do you ensure that they are aware of and compassionate towards humanitarian issues, coming as they do from a uniquely privileged background?
Healthcare issues, to be honest, I hope they stay away from both getting sick and being involved in that too much. I try to shield them from kind of public duties as much as I can, and I want to make sure as well that my interests aren't forced on them. It does so happen that Jalila herself has a natural inclination towards healthcare. She spends a lot of time talking with her father, Sheikh Muhammad, about it, who is one of the best people, who has an enormous amount of knowledge in medicine. So she enjoys that, and she is forever bringing a stray cat or a sick dog home for them to look at. So I think that's where it starts, and taking those animals to the vet, and sitting with the vet and trying to understand how to make them better. That's where it starts. But she pops into the Jalila hospital as often as she can, and looks around, and that's completely unprompted from me. But I'm proud of it. As far as the humanitarian area is concerned, it's not that I would push them towards that industry, but I do bring humanitarian issues and discuss poverty and people who are less privileged around them as often as possible. I think that's healthy. I think that they naturally, because of Sheikh Muhammad is so generous, they've always been brought up to see giving around them. And I think that's one aspect of it, but they haven't been shielded at all from seeing the situation of people far less privileged, and indeed in some cases quite traumatic situations that they understand clearly that they do have a privileged life and that others don't have it easy, and that nothing around them is to be taken for granted. Jalila saw, I think, a picture of a man in South Sudan who was starving a couple of weeks ago, and then I saw that she'd written a letter to the World Food Programme and donated her life savings, which was £167.26 to the World Food Programme. So I thought that was one way to start. It was very, very, very good start.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You must be very proud.
I'm proud. Thank
That's
you.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely
Thank you.
meeting
It's been lovely to meet you, Louise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Is it okay if I